Last Friday evening in Dallas, Texas, a man named Daniel Carter, a 36-year-old warehouse supervisor and father of two, did something he had done hundreds of times before. He opened his banking app, not because something was wrong, not because he planned to spend, but because payday had just hit and checking his balance felt like control. A small moment of reassurance. His account looked fine. Bills already deducted, salary deposited, nothing unusual, but just below the balance, something new appeared. A message. Restaurants you may enjoy this weekend. 15% cash back available. Daniel didn't react immediately. He just stared for a second longer than usual. Because the suggestion wasn't random. It matched something he had not yet decided. Dinner with his family. Something simple, something he was already considering. He didn't see it as influence. He saw it as convenience. And that distinction is where everything begins. My name is Ted. And if you've ever wondered why your money seems to disappear in ways you never fully planned, you're not alone. But this isn't about spending habits. It's about something more subtle. Timing. And timing is where most financial decisions are actually made. If you find simple breakdowns of hidden financial systems useful, subscribe and leave a like, because what you're about to see is something you interact with every day without realizing how deeply it is shaping your decisions. There was a time when banking apps had one job: to record what had already happened. Deposits, withdrawals, transactions, history. They were digital notebooks. Nothing more. But something changed. Quietly. Without announcement. Without warning. Banking apps stopped being only record keepers and started becoming observation systems. Not just tracking money, but tracking behavior, because every interaction tells a story. When you check your balance, when you send money, when you hesitate before a purchase, when you spend more on certain days than others. Individually, these moments mean nothing, but together they form something powerful, a pattern of predictability. Now shift the scene. In Atlanta, Georgia, a woman named Rachel Brooks, a 29-year-old ICU nurse working back-to-back shifts, opens her banking app at 11:47 p.m. She is not thinking about money. She is thinking about sleep. But her app isn't only seeing sleep deprivation. It is seeing behavior history. It knows she often orders food after night shifts. It knows she rarely cooks when she gets home past 10 p.m. It knows exhaustion changes her decisions, not because she told it, but because she showed it, repeatedly. And tonight, like many nights before, a suggestion appears. Quick meals near your route home. Rachel doesn't analyze it. She reacts. Because at that moment, thinking is expensive. Emotion is cheaper. Here's what most people don't realize. Every time you open your banking app, you're not just checking numbers. You're feeding a system that is quietly building a picture of who you are, not your name, not your address, your patterns, what you buy on Fridays, what you do when you're stressed, how you behave the day after payday, how long you browse before you buy. These aren't random observations. They're data points, and data points collected over months become something remarkably powerful. Prediction. Marcus Webb is a 41-year-old high school football coach in Memphis, Tennessee. Every Sunday, Marcus sits down with his coffee and reviews his finances for the week ahead. He's disciplined, intentional, the kind of person who reads the fine print. Last March, he noticed something that stopped him mid-sip. 3 consecutive Sundays, within minutes of opening his banking app, a notification appeared promoting a sporting goods sale. Not just any sporting goods sale, equipment his players needed. Marcus had never searched for it, never mentioned it to anyone, but his app had watched him make similar purchases 3 times in the previous season. Same time of year, same category, same spending window. And so, the offer arrived. Not randomly, but precisely. Marcus told me, it felt helpful, like the app was looking out for me. That's exactly how it's supposed to feel, because the most effective influence never feels like influence. It feels like your own idea. Now let's talk about what's actually happening underneath. Not in complicated technical language, but in plain terms anyone can understand. Think of your banking app like a very patient friend who never forgets anything. Every time you spend, that friend makes a small note. Not just what you bought, but when and why. After a few months, that friend starts to notice things even you haven't consciously noticed about yourself. You always treat yourself after a hard week. You almost never stick to your grocery budget when you shop hungry. You spend more in December than any other month, not just on gifts, but on everything. Now imagine that friend isn't trying to help you save money. Imagine they work for the stores. Suddenly, everything they've learned about you becomes a tool, not to protect your wallet, to open it at the most predictable moment possible. That's the gap being closed. Not by one big decision, but by hundreds of small ones that felt personal and timely and completely your own. And this is the part most people never see coming, because nobody sits down and consciously decides to let an app influence their spending. It happens gradually, one convenient suggestion at a time, until the suggestions stop feeling like suggestions at all. They just feel like life. Now here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Jennifer Okafor is a 33-year-old marketing coordinator in Phoenix, Arizona. 2 years ago, Jennifer switched to a basic bank account. No rewards program, no personalized offers, no spending suggestions. Her friends thought she was being old-fashioned. Her sister asked if she was worried about missing out on cashback. Jennifer just smiled, because 12 months later, Jennifer had saved $2,200 more than the previous year. Same salary, same rent, same life. But without a system quietly studying her weak moments and placing perfectly timed offers in front of her, the gap stayed open. The money had nowhere to leak. And $2,200 in 1 year, directed into the right place, doesn't just sit there. It starts working, quietly, in the background, the same way the app was working against her before, but now working for her instead. That's the shift. And it starts with something almost embarrassingly simple. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but because the next few videos in the blueprint are going to keep pulling back layers on the systems quietly competing for your money every single day. You'll want to see what's coming. Now, let's get practical, because understanding the problem is only half of the blueprint. The other half is knowing exactly what to do about it. 3 moves, simple ones, the kind you can make before this video ends. The first move is to turn off every promotional notification on your banking app today. Not fraud alerts, not security warnings. Keep those, but every offer, every reward reminder, every recommended for you message, off. Here's why this matters more than it sounds. Kevin Simmons is a 28-year-old delivery driver in Columbus, Ohio. Kevin turned off his bank's promotional notifications 9 months ago on a Tuesday afternoon on a whim. He told me the first week felt strange, like something was missing. By week 3, he'd stopped noticing. By month 3, he realized he was making his own spending decisions again, not reacting to someone else's timing. Kevin didn't change his income. He didn't move to a cheaper apartment. He didn't give up anything he valued. He just removed the system's access to his impulse window, and that one change saved him an estimated $150 a month. Not because he became more disciplined, because fewer forces were competing for his attention at his most vulnerable moments. The second move is to bring friction back into your spending. Friction is the small delay between wanting something and buying it. Technology spent years removing that delay. One-tap checkout, saved card details, instant purchase confirmations, all of it designed to shrink the gap between impulse and transaction. But that gap, even when it's only 10 seconds long, is where your best financial decisions live. So bring it back deliberately. Lydia Marsh is a 44-year-old dental hygienist in Nashville, Tennessee. Lydia made one rule for herself 18 months ago. Any purchase above $30 that wasn't groceries or bills had to wait until the next morning. Not forever, just overnight. She called it her sleep test. If she still wanted it in the morning, she'd buy it. If she'd forgotten about it by morning, she had her answer. In the first month, Lydia rejected 11 purchases that had felt urgent the night before. Not because they were bad purchases necessarily, but because the urgency was borrowed. It belonged to the notification, not to her. The third move is to open your app's settings and look at what it actually knows about you. Most people have never done this. They've accepted every permission request without reading it, shared their location, allowed behavioral tracking, enabled personalization, all in the name of a smoother experience. And the experience is smooth, beautifully smooth. That's the point, because smooth means frictionless. And frictionless means the gap between seeing something and buying it gets smaller every single year. You don't need to delete everything. You don't need to become paranoid. You just need to know what information you've handed over. Because awareness alone changes behavior. The moment you realize a suggestion was engineered for your weak moment, it loses most of its power over you. That's not cynicism. That's the blueprint working in your favor. Here's the bigger picture. Daniel Carter is still in Dallas. He took his family to dinner that Friday, spent $74, left a good tip, and had a genuinely nice evening. But last month, Daniel started paying attention. He noticed the patterns in his own app. He noticed when offers appeared and why. He turned off the promotions. He started waiting a night before any unplanned purchase. And in 2 months, without changing his salary, without cutting back on anything that mattered to him, Daniel found an extra $340 staying in his account each month. Not because he stopped living, because he started deciding. Rachel Brooks is still in Atlanta, still working night shifts, still exhausted at 11:47 p.m. But now when the app suggests a meal near her route home, she pauses, just for a second. And in that second, she asks one question. Did I decide this? Or did something else? That pause is worth more than any cashback offer she'll ever receive, because that pause is the beginning of the gap getting wider instead of narrower, and a wider gap, protected and directed, is exactly how financial freedom starts. Not with a windfall, not with a massive salary, not with a perfect budget, with a pause, with a decision, with the quiet but powerful act of choosing your own timing. So, here's what I want you to do right now. Before you even close this video, open your banking app, go to Settings, find Notifications, turn off every promotional alert, then find Personalization or Data Settings. See what's being collected. Make one decision today that the app didn't suggest, because every financial life worth building started with someone deciding to stop reacting and start choosing. That's the blueprint, and you've just taken the first step inside it. So let me ask you this. Are you the one deciding where your money goes, or has something else been making those calls before you even realize it? Drop your answer in the comments, because I want to know how many people finish this video and open their settings for the very first time. And if this opened your eyes to something you'll never unsee, subscribe, leave a like, and stay close, because next time on The Blueprint, we're going to talk about something that quietly costs Americans more than they ever calculate. Not what they spend, but what they were never told about the tax on every dollar they earn. Once you see that number, the real one, not the one on your payslip, everything changes. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.